Welcome, and thank you all for joining us for this very special series of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's look at all things commercial real estate. I'm your host, Shanti Ryle, Director of Content at Crexi, and this is the Women of Influence series, delivering next-level insights and expertise live from GlobeSt's Women of Influence Conference. And today we are thrilled to sit down again with Julie Baird. A little bit about our guest. Julie is president of First American Exchange Company. She leverages people-centered leadership practices to foster an organizational culture of collaboration, transparency, and trust, with employees reporting high job satisfaction while delivering record-setting financial results. The best of both worlds. A fierce advocate for elevating female voices within commercial real estate, Julie has been a member of GlobeSt Women of Influence speaking faculty since its inception and was awarded as a Woman of Influence in 2023, and I think this year as well, right?
Not this year. Speaking this year, but no award.
Speaking this year,
yes.
Gotcha. We'll get you back on there. She was awarded First American's DPK Circle of Excellence Award in 2022. A recognition given to a very small number of the highest achieving employees in the entire org of nearly 20,000 people. And Julie was invited to participate in First American's Women in Leadership class of 2021 and selected by her class as a presenter to the First American Financial Executive Team. Julie is a past president of the Federation of Exchange Accommodators and is past director for CREW Denver. She's a frequent speaker and author on 1031 exchange and industry-related topics. She is also a former chair of the executive community of the Real Property Law section of the State Bar of California, and she is the prior managing editor of the California Real Property Journal. Julie.
That's a mouthful.
Welcome back. We're so happy to have you back
Shanti,
on the podcast.
thanks for having me. It's such an honor to be here, and it is
know.
always a thrill. And thank you for all you do to promote women in the industry, and this podcast is a big piece of that, so thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you're going to make me emotional. No, I'm really glad that we got you on the podcast. I know there was a bit of a scheduling kerfuffle, but we made it work. We got you on here the last day of the conference, and thank goodness we did, because you have such incredible messages, such incredible story that, you know, we got a little bit of a taste of for our listeners, an hour-long taste of for our listeners last conversation we had. Yeah. But, you know, for those who maybe didn't listen to that episode, which get on it, everyone, can you share a little bit more about how you got into commercial real estate and why? Why do you love it?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I started my career as a real estate attorney in San Francisco 25 years ago now, which is hard to believe. And when I first started practicing law, I was an associate at a law firm, right? So I did bankruptcy and litigation, and I wasn't catching my stride. And then I worked on my first real estate transaction, and I was like, oh, God, maybe this is okay. Maybe I like being a lawyer. And it was collaborative, and we were trying to achieve the same goal. And at the end of the day, you get to look at your project that you built or funded or financed, and that's pretty cool.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
You can touch it.
Exactly. Yeah. And there aren't a lot of things in the world where you can say, like, I did that, you know?
Absolutely.
So it was great. And then my career path launched from private practice into First American Exchange as in-house counsel back in 2006. And kind of went from there. I mostly have been with the exchange company side. I was in the title company part of the company for a couple of years, doing some underwriting during the great financial recession, which was challenging, but learned a ton, as you do. And left the industry for a little bit, went to a nonprofit for a couple of years, which was really fun. I was doing redwood forest preservation in California. Yeah.
I'm getting married in the redwoods this fall.
Are you really?
So yeah, very, very special to me.
Yeah, I love that. It is a magical, magical place when you can be in a forest like that just has so much history. And yeah, and then for family reasons, ended up needing to move to Denver. Not a lot of redwoods in Denver. So
a lot of trees.
a lot of trees, a lot of forests, not a lot of redwoods. So called up my old boss back at First American and asked if she knew of any opportunities. And she said, why don't you come back as in-house counsel for us? And I did that for a couple of years, and then realized we had a business need in Colorado to have an office. We were doing deals in Colorado, but we didn't have a physical location there. So we weren't capturing those relationships. We just weren't building on those opportunities. So opened the office and learned a ton doing that. That was my first foray into like being real business, you know, a P&L and hiring and firing. And I learned I'm terrible at sales. I had to hire sales. And
I am too.
I don't believe that.
It scares me. It's hard being not pushy, but I think, I want to respect people where they are. So it's hard to be like, no, buy my product, please.
I know. It's hard to be turned down. You have to have thick skin in sales. But at the end of the day, it's a relationship business, right? And you're so good and natural at cultivating relationships.
Thank you.
You're a
I
natural.
appreciate that. So you started the Denver office.
Yeah, and then from there became a Western Regional Manager. So that kind of took me down this management track, which got me off the legal track, which was really fun. I really like the people side, and I like building teams, and I like building collaborative environments and building culture. So I was managing our West region then, which was 13 states, and did that for a couple years, and then I was tapped for this role about 3 years ago. And so
you are.
Here I am.
Doing it all, leading everything.
In my own mind.
Yeah. Well, it takes a village for sure. But I mean, obviously, throughout it all, people have seen in you really wonderful leadership qualities, the ability to learn, the ability to pivot, to project manage, to start something from nothing, which is super challenging and takes a lot of gumption. And I think the ability to collaborate, the ability to learn, to think on your feet. So, clearly you're doing some stuff right.
Thank you.
I'd love to know, looking back on all the work you've done, what are some of the achievements that you're most proud of?
Yeah, great question. I'm certainly very proud to have been an award recipient at this Women of Influence event last year. And it was lovely to have a team here supporting me through that. And the DPK award was wonderful to get that recognition within the company. Something that happened very recently that I'm extremely proud of was just some results of our employee survey. So we do a Great Places to Work survey throughout the corporation. And the exchange division results just came back within the last couple of weeks. And of those folks that responded, 100% said that we were a great place to work. And building culture and teams and like breaking down some silos and creating transparency has been my goal since I stepped into this role. And to see that reflected in those results was really fulfilling.
Absolutely. I'm sure it felt so good. And it comes top down, right? So you set that example, I'm sure, of transparency, of collaboration, of working together and supporting one another. Yeah. So I'm curious, top down, what, you've explained very clearly like what your values are in terms of creating that kind of work environment for folks. But practically speaking, what steps did you take to ensure everyone that joined the team shared those values? How do you create, opportunities for these folks? What do you do in the day-to-day that makes that outcome?
It's such a good question, right? Like, what's the secret sauce? And sometimes you do have to step back and think, okay, this is working, but what are we actually doing that's working? And it's kind of fuzzy, and it changes all the time, and you have to be very intentional all the time. So when I first, my boss has been extremely supportive. She's the one who tapped me and had me step into this role. Definitely a mentor for me, Sally French-Tyler. She's been in the commercial real estate industry for many, many years, has been a leader for women in so many ways. And her entrusting me with this role and supporting me in the initiatives that I wanted to spend my energies on gave me the confidence to try and do some things to change what we were doing. Our culture when I took over was not great. It was difficult. We were very siloed. We had different offices that really just operated independently. We didn't support each other. We weren't collaborative. Nobody really understood the big picture financials of what we were trying to achieve. And it was right around that time when the COVID pandemic was in its heyday, so to speak.
2020.
Yeah, what a year. And, everyone had to really literally pick up their computer and printer and go home and set up at their kitchen counter, with their kids at home without a roadmap. Like, we had no idea how to do this. Yeah. And so not only were people feeling isolated within their specific business units, but now they're isolated in their kitchen with trying to figure out how to do their job, trying to figure out how to manage their family and their children and health scares. And it was a lot. And so really just trying to meet every single person where they were at. When I first stepped into the role as president, I did a one-on-one with everyone in our division. So it was a little over 100 people. And just asked them, what's working, what's not, what do you need, what should we be thinking about, where should we be taking the company, what's important to you? And those conversations they took a long time, but man, so critical to really understand what we were doing well and what we weren't. We were doing some things well, but there were a lot of things that we were really falling short and we didn't really realize it and we weren't paying attention to it. Yeah. So collaboration. We created some cross-divisional committees across different offices, so people were getting a chance to work with people they hadn't before and share ideas and best practices. What are best practices when you're trying to have a team meeting on Teams? You know, it was all so new. We didn't really know. Is it Teams? Is it Zoom? I don't know. How does it work? How do you turn your camera on? Do I have to shower? Like, all of the things, right? All the things. And so just sort of building that culture together of what would feel good when we met, and what do we talk about, and what are you concerned about? Are you concerned about our financials, or are you concerned about something else? Like, can we make our processes more efficient? Are you concerned about how we're reaching out to our customers or failing to reach out to our customers? And just creating that dialogue and really co-creating the culture we all wanted to have together.
I love that. And what I pulled out from what you just said as well is you didn't hire a consultancy, a consulting firm. You didn't hand down directives and say, this is what we're going to do to change everything. What you did was you relied on your most important resource, which is your people, to get that insight, right? Included them in the conversation, and then had them have ownership in implementing the solution, which I think is brilliant. And, you know, it maybe took a little more effort meeting with 100 people than one consultant, but it clearly paid off, which I think that's amazing. And then the other thing I wanted to pull from, kind of touching on that, is, you know, what advice would you give young leaders that are in this position of they're new to management, they don't know what to do, how to build a team? What advice would you give them to create a landscape similar to what you were able to create at First American?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I started working with a leadership coach actually shortly before I took on this role.
I take it back. You did hire a consultant.
I know. As you were saying that, I was like, does a leadership coach count? But, you know, we've been talking a lot.
Special.
They are special. They are special. And I just wanted to make sure I had some tools that I could bring to the table, because I was having doubts about my abilities, and I really didn't know. I didn't know how to navigate working at home and leading teams and leading an organization. And so I'll share some advice that she shared with me that I just thought was so incredibly helpful. But it was, most importantly, think about how you want to be received by whatever audience you are talking to. So whether it's a podcast, or it's a one-on-one with one of your employees, or it's a one-on-one with somebody that doesn't report to you, or your leadership team, every audience, there's generally a different goal of the conversation. So what is the ideal outcome of this conversation? How do you want the audience to receive you? And then really kind of enter into the conversation with that. And then what is the ideal outcome of that conversation at the end of the day? Some of those conversations are easy. You know what the ideal outcome is. Some conversations are difficult, like, how do we want to work at home? That is, nobody knows that, you know, at the time. And so coming in curious and asking those questions and helping people feel like they have the ability and the agency to contribute to the conversations and then the decisions that get made that impact their lives and their work, that is how you build that trust really from the ground up. And then from there, people feel comfortable asking questions. They feel comfortable sharing ideas. Some ideas are good, some aren't, but that's okay. Everything's welcome. And it fosters this environment of collaboration and trust.
Yeah, I really love that. It's, you know, you want to have an awareness of the outcome based on the communication, not necessarily what you want them to do or the goal of the conversation.
That's manipulative, right?
Yeah, it's just to get on the same level and get equal buy-in, so you both can be generative and come up with something that works.
That's right. And I think sometimes, especially younger women leaders, when we come into a situation, we think, I need to know all the answers, and I need to like set up this conversation in a way to get to the answer that I know that we need to get to. And there's a sense of control in that. But the reality is that it doesn't create that buy-in. It doesn't help that team co-create what you want. You do have to come in from a place of, help me build this. And it's not a reflection on your inability to lead or inability to make decisions. Like, being collaborative doesn't mean you're not decisive. You can still have both of those things. But coming in, creating that sense of help me build what we're trying to build.
Yeah, and it takes some confidence to not come rushing in like with a "I have something to prove" attitude. I've been guilty of that in my day.
We all have. Oh, of course we have.
Yeah, and so I absolutely resonate with that. I want to be mindful of our time.
Sure.
Because we got a dinner to get ready for.
We do, and I've been long-winded with my answers. So I've been very patient.
I very much appreciate it, and I know we haven't really gotten into the 1031 market conversation much. We did a lot of it on our last podcast.
We certainly did.
I'm glad that we got to get a little bit more into the philosophy aspect of things. But before I let you go, you gave a great piece of advice in terms of female leaders. What do you think the industry at large can do to open more doors for more young people, definitely, but women in commercial real estate to step into these leadership opportunities and shine and, like you've done with First American, deliver stellar business results as well?
Yeah. I think we're all struggling with that. How can we do more and be more visible and create more opportunities and open more doors for more people? And I love this conference. I love this podcast that you're doing. I love organizations like Crew. And we have to be really intentional. We have to be intentional in where we recruit. We have to be intentional in the conversations we have. We have to be on the interview panel, something that Courtney talked about earlier today in one of her panels. You have to be part of those conversations when we're recruiting and hiring so that we're not just perpetuating a cycle of inequality and how diverse representation should be in our leadership. And it takes effort to do that, and it's critically important to growth and sustainability and creativity. And the business results will speak for themselves once you create the opportunity for that to happen. So this event is just such a fantastic opportunity to network with other women and share ideas as to how we can do that and keep doing it better and keep growing.
And it's great. It's such a great space. Julie, thank you so much for joining us again. We'll have a proper round 2, I think, sometime soon, because there's too much fun to talk to. But where can our listeners find you if they want to connect, get in touch, learn more about what you do at First American?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn at Julie Baird. My email address at First American is just my first and last name at firstam.com. And I would love to hear other people's stories and keep the conversation going. Thank you again. The opportunity to speak with you is always such a joy. So thanks for the opportunity.
It's always so much fun. Yeah. Thank you again. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone who tuned in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please do not miss the next one in our Women of Influence series. Visit crexi.com/podcast and sign up to get the next episode delivered straight to your inbox. You can also subscribe to the Crexi Podcast on your favorite podcast app, or check out our YouTube channel for video recordings of each and every episode. Take care and be sure to tune in next time.